All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 181. And today, I still feel absolutely horrendous. It feels like my insides have decided to go to war with my insides, and yeah, it is remarkably unpleasant. So what do? I find ways to ignore the problem, and we're going to talk about something that's not me today. I had a revelation. So, if anyone is clueless in any way, shape, or form, I've been running Daggerheart. I ran one Zelda-themed adventure for Zelda Universe. That was fun. And I've run 2 sessions of the Village of Hamlet, the classic D&D adventure that has been transitioned into Daggerheart. And it's been a lot of fun, but one of the biggest complaints that I heard back when people were reviewing Daggerheart was the idea of the lack of an initiative system was just going to cause all of these problems. And anyone that's actually run it effectively comes to the same conclusion. It shouldn't work, but it does. And it works really, really well. And none of us can figure out why. And I came to a realization recently. The people that I have been having conversations about this system with, and the reviewers that have been reviewing it, all have something in common. We all play a lot of tabletop RPGs. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, isn't that a good thing? That means you guys should be more knowledgeable than like just some random dude that has never seen a TTRPG before. Technically, yes, but story time. And I'm going to bring it back to my health because I started with my health, and it's a really, really good example. So, many years ago, I was put into a psychiatric care facility for my own safety. And while I was there, I met with their kind of on-call psychiatrist. If anyone is unaware, a psychologist studies the brain and psychology in general. They don't study the brain in the idea of like a neurosurgeon or a neuroscientist where they're studying the physical brain. Psychologists study motivation and things like that, how the brain kind of operates, but not the physical qualities of it. A psychiatrist studies drugs. Like, that is the entire purpose of a psychiatrist, is they are experts in drugs, specifically drugs that help regulate your mental state, but that is their job. They are drug doctors. And I'm not saying that to disparage psychiatrists in any way, shape, or form. They provide an absolutely phenomenal service to a lot of different people. I'm telling you that because when all you have is a hammer, all of your problems look like nails. And so a psychiatrist, if you go to a psychiatrist, they 9 times out of 10 are going to recommend you go on some sort of medication because that's their entire purpose. It would kind of like be going to a car mechanic and then wondering why they recommended that you do work. They work on your car. It's the entire reason you go to a mechanic is for them to work on your car. And the entire reason you go to a psychiatrist is to get information and prescriptions for mental health drugs. So, that being said, I met with their psychiatrist, and I told them, again, the reason I was there is I had become the word that we're not supposed to use on the internet. But everyone else talks about, like, unalived and things like that. I was to the point where that sounded like a great idea. This is not a good place to be. My therapist at the time, who's still working, it's one of the few therapists I haven't scared out of the business, to my knowledge. She recommended, and by recommended said, well, you can check yourself in, or I can have you checked in. And so I checked myself in, met with a psychiatrist, and I told him flat out, like, meds don't work on me. They never have, and I always get really, really bad side effects. This is before, this was literally right before I was diagnosed with serotonin syndrome. And this is the doctor that nearly killed me. Should have killed me. Had I actually listened to them, I would probably be dead now. So I go in, and I tell him, yeah, I understand that you're going to want to put me on medication. Medication doesn't work on me. Bad things happen when I go on medication. Now, this was not a psychiatrist that was just out of psychiatry school. This dude had been around at least for like 5 to 10 years minimum. He was not super old or anything. He was probably in his, I don't know, late 20s, mid 30s, somewhere in there. Which I understand that medical degrees take 8 years, and then in addition to that, you have residency for like 2 or 3 years or something like that. So I understand that you're not becoming like a full doctor until you're in your, late. He'd been around for a while. Let's just put it that way. So he had and not only that, he was working in a psychiatric hospital. So the people that he was working with were, I mean, it's kind of the same thing of, like, I learned how to run D&D at conventions. That's like the most concentrated place you're going to find tabletop gamers. That's what a psychiatrist is going to be dealing with. They are just absolutely flooded with opportunities to learn and diagnose people that are in very, very bad places. So this guy had a significant amount of experience. And because of that experience, he had heard other people say very similar things to what I said. Listen, I don't like medication. Translation, fun fact, for people that are like bipolar and other mood disorders and things like that, bipolar is literally that. You have these two poles of emotion, and this high part is called mania, and this low part is called depression. And so bipolar is you just keep flipping between these two poles. And so people that have bipolar have these huge, huge shifts in emotions and very, very strong emotions. When they're in a manic phase, they feel invincible, they feel amazing. And when they're in a depressive phase, they are at the worst, the lowest of the low they could ever feel. And so when they're put on medication, what the medication does is everybody is like this. You have good days, you have bad days. That's how your brain works. And so what the medication does, it just kind of shrinks it so that you're more like an average person. So you have good and bad, but it's not super, I'm invincible, to I'm the worst person in the world and deserve to not be here anymore. But when that happens, they no longer get to feel the really, really strong emotions that they're used to. Everything feels muted. And so it's and it's not just for bipolar people. Anyone that deals with like anxiety disorders, the exact same thing. Anxiety disorders means you'll have these crazy, crazy high anxiety phases, but you kind of get used to it. You kind of expect that, and then when you're put on the medication, you feel like the world has been muted, like somebody has turned the contrast dial down on the TV, despite the fact that TVs don't have contrast dials anymore. Just go with me on this. And so a lot of people that don't like that feeling because it feels unnatural, because technically it is for them, will say very similar things. Well, I really don't like being on the medication. It doesn't make me feel good. And when the doctor hears that, they go, well, yeah, we understand that. But when you do feel good, you also feel extremely bad. So maybe it's okay that you don't feel quite as good anymore because you're not getting quite as bad anymore. There's pluses and minuses to this thing. And so they will start shifting from, well, I don't like it, it doesn't make me feel good, to it actively hurts me and therefore I cannot take it. So, because of this doctor's expertise, when I said something that was 100% true, it wasn't me over exaggerating, it wasn't me trying to get out of taking medication. I have something wrong with how my brain works, where I was on the absolute lowest dose of one of the most gentle and light SSRIs you can be put on. He purposefully put me on a super, super low dose, and he put me on a very, very gentle one that's very, very mild, and it doesn't like instantly kick in. It takes a while for it to kick in. That's the entire purpose of this drug and the dosage that he had me on. However, even on that very, very low dosage, I developed a life-threatening side effect that shouldn't happen. Like normally serotonin syndrome only occurs if you're on multiple SSRIs or SNRIs, or you're taking like kind of a cocktail of different medications, or what happens more often if you are taking other forms of medication that maybe you didn't get from a hospital, but make you feel really, really good, if you know what I'm talking about. Those one of the reasons those things feel so good is they actually mess with your serotonin levels. And so people that are taking illegal things, combining that with completely legal medication that's designed to help them, will develop serotonin syndrome. And again, it's a life-threatening thing. I think the last time I checked, like over 1,000 people die from it every year. Which, when you look at things like in the U.S., 8,000 people die a day. It's not a massive number, but it's still enough that it's a thing. And those are just the people that died from it. More people live through it as well. It's not 100% fatal. I lived through it. But going back to this doctor, his expertise, because he had seen this so often, was, I don't have to listen to you because you're lying to me. And the reason I know that is because I have heard other people lie to me before. And so because of that expertise, he took a jump. He skipped the steps where he took some time to kind of get to know me and get, talk about, well, what symptoms did you get from these other things? He skipped all of that, and he immediately jumped to the conclusion of, oh, you're one of those people that just doesn't like being on the meds because they don't get the super highs and the super lows that they're used to. I'll deal with this. And so he kind of browbeat me into taking it. I was applying for disability at the time, and he told me flat out, well, no one's going to believe you if you're not on medication. Basically told me, if you don't take these drugs, I will ensure that you can't get disability. Now, he didn't say that, but that's how my brain took it. And one of the things, when I'm in a really bad depressive funk, I become very compliant. Like, I just do what I'm told. So I did that, and it nearly killed me. It changed the rest of my life. Because the meds that they had to put me on to deal with the side effects, I have possibly permanent brain damage, and I'm 100% disabled now. I have seizures that I've never had before. Like, it was one of the worst decisions I've ever made in the entirety of my life. And I made it because an expert told me that it was the right thing to do. Now, the reason I'm telling you that story is the person that did this thing to me that ruined my life was not doing it out of malice, was not doing it because they were stupid. They were doing it because they were actually, in this particular instance, overeducated and over-experienced for this particular situation. And so because of that, they saw things that weren't there because they've seen very similar instances of the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I hope you guys see where I'm going with this. So let's move back to Daggerheart. Everyone I've talked to that talks about running the game and everything like that goes, there's no reason this should work as well as it does. And again, the people that I talk to, like Ghostfire Gaming, they have a podcast that they do on Mondays. And they were, I watch it every so often because Dale Kingsmill's on it, and I love Dale. She's amazing. Dale, if you ever watch this, love you. She was the White Ranger in my Power Rangers TTRPG game. And she's one of the coolest people I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with. She's great. So, Dale's on it. Dale's one of the regular panelists, and so I catch it every so often. And they were doing an episode right after Daggerheart launched, and they were talking about Daggerheart. And one of the other guys on there, I can't remember his name. I think it's James. Anyway, he's talking about, it works, and I don't understand why. And we started talking in chat as well. And because the rest of the panelists were talking, James just kind of went into chat and just kind of was chatting with us while the rest of the panelists were talking. And we both kind of came to the conclusion, like, the only way to describe Daggerheart and how it runs is smooth. And we can't understand why. And I recently realized the reason that we can't understand why is we have so much experience and we are so familiar with so many different ways to run a game. Whether you're talking about someone that's only played a single system like D&D, but they've done it a ton, or someone like me that has played tons of different systems, has a significant amount of experience, and then also does the reviewing thing. And that's another thing is reviewers in general, we may not get to play the games, but we have enough knowledge of how things work, especially when you GM and you have to kind of adjudicate rules and things like that. You start to kind of understand how things are worded and how they'll work. It's the same way with people that like play Magic the Gathering a lot. They can look at a card and instantly know all the different combinations and all the different things that it'll do when it, combines with the other card, because they're just very familiar. You don't have to actually play those cards to know which ones are going to be problematic or not. They just know. And I think in the instance of specifically the Daggerheart Initiative system, I think our expertise is working against us, because the system itself works perfectly. And if you read it without any prior tabletop RPG knowledge, it makes perfect sense. Every player gets to do something until they roll. If they fail or roll with fear, the GM gets to do something. And to balance things out, the GM can do more things than the players can by spending fear. And if the players are just ever on a hot streak, the GM can just interject to do some stuff. That is a very, very simple to understand system. And there are checks and balances written into it to make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to. So again, without all of my knowledge of how players interact with things and how other tabletop RPGs do it, and other initiative systems that I've used, the Daggerheart system makes sense. It's just very, very different. And again, I cut my teeth at conventions. And convention play is made for min-maxers. 100%. I don't know if it's still that way now, but for like the 3 or 4 years that I was doing conventions, min-maxing was the accepted thing. I remember I had a buddy of mine that every single convention that we both went to, we would actively find a game, at least one game, that he and I could play together, because it was the only time that we ever saw each other. We had met at a convention. I think we met at my first... the first convention that I ran the D&D program for. And so literally every single time I was going to a convention, I would shoot him a message and go, "Hey, I'm going to this convention. Are you going as well?" And he'd go, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, cool. What games have you signed up for?" And I would find a table that he had signed up for, or we would work together to find a table that we could play together. And he was a super cool dude. But I remember having a conversation with him because he made this just incredible multi-classed monstrosity. It was a ranger, rogue, warlock hybrid, I think it was. Like it was like 3 different multi classes. He might have even put fighter in there too. I don't know. But the way that he created this character is he could cast darkness, see in magical darkness because of his warlock levels. He could shoot really, really well in like Hunter's Market, and then he could also toss on sneak attack and a bunch of other like. We had this one adventure where the end fight is there's this spellcaster on the back of a wyvern. And it makes for a really, really difficult fight because the spellcaster is in the air, and so no melee characters can take them out at all. And the wyvern is breathing dragon fire on people. It's a really, really tough encounter. Well, what we did is we snuck up to the encounter. I cast silence on the wyvern and the spellcaster, and then he did his little combo and nearly one-shot the wyvern. It was just almost dead without him, because I think he also had action surge. And so, yeah, he just hit it like 4 times in a row and nearly just completely wiped it out of existence. And then I think I got to go, and I was playing my Shadow Monk, and I was able to go over there, finish it, and then take out the spellcaster. And after that, there were other creatures on the board, but before anyone could act, we got a surprise round. We were able to take it out, and a lot of it had to do with his just kind of busted character. And so after a game one time at one of the conventions, we went because the hotel was right next to a mall, and so we went over to this mall to this sandwich shop that he knew really well, and we just sat down and we're eating, and it was really good too. I think I had a Reuben. I love Reuben, guys. Oh, it's one of the things that upsets me the most about my gut right now is I can't eat real food. I haven't had a Reuben in like 2 years. It sucks. Anyway, so we're just sitting down, and he's kind of talking about the character that he's building and where he wants to go with it next. And I just said, "You realize like D&D is a group sport, right?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "You have built the perfect solo character because you need nothing. Like everything you need to make your character do amazing things, your character can do on its own. But you could do a lot more if you relied on other people." He's like, "Well, yeah, but that's just how the Adventure League goes. You're not going to know who's going to sit down at the table." I'm like, fair enough. So again, I'm very, very used to having to deal with players that are trying to skirt the system and find the absolute best way to do things and all that stuff. And a lot of other really experienced game masters are in a similar boat. If you've only ever run your own home group, you're going to know what they do, and that's about it. But if you run public games or charity games or anything like that, you're going to become very, very familiar with a lot of different play styles. And that influences your thought process going, oh, if I was at this table, then they would do this and this and this. Or if I was at this table, they would do this and this and this. Or if I had this player, they'd do this. Or this player would do this. And so I think the biggest... And I'm just using the initiative system as an example. Because it was probably the most glaring thing that people would call out about Daggerheart was, the initiative system's completely unusable. Like, no one would ever be able to use it. No, it works perfectly fine. You just have so much expertise, and you're reading between the lines where you're seeing one thing, but you're going, oh, but I've seen other people interpret that as this, this, and this. And then so that what that really means is not what it says here. It's not what the person is telling me. It's what I think, what I know they're really saying. And so, yeah, I just thought that was kind of a fascinating thing. Your expertise can hurt you when you are trying to examine something that is very new. If you're looking at, the latest flavor of D&D copycats, well then yeah, use all your expertise because it's going to probably run very, very similar to Dungeons & Dragons. When you're looking at something that actually does something very different, it's going to... your expertise is going to hurt you rather than going to help you. And being able to kind of take yourself out of your own expertise and look at something as if it's the only thing that exists in the world is an extremely difficult thing to do. So, anyway, I thought it was interesting. What do you guys think? Do you think that expert bias was one of the reasons why we had a lot of people kind of complaining about Daggerheart? Did you not see that really much at all? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, it's all for me today. I will see you guys in the next time. All right? Bye-bye.